Good morning, Australia, wherever you might be. Welcome to our Thursday together. Incredible scenes yesterday at Inglis for the end of the Easter sale, but also on the weather front. The rain has absolutely dumped down, particularly at Randwick in the last 24 hours. Up until an hour ago, there was 137 mil that had been rained on the top of Randwick. There's going to be more because the continued heavy rain is falling. They're going to do another update for us any tick of the clock. Mark Van Gestel, the Chief Steward for Racing New South Wales, has been out there this morning. They are concerned in an area around the 1,000-metre chute area. There is a dam at the back of the track, and with all the rain that has fallen, that has lifted so much that there is now water coming across from the dam, across the course proper, and that is obviously of great concern. They are going to continue to monitor it. There's going to be more heavy rain today. Tomorrow's forecast is a lot less, but the damage could have been done. So it's a case of monitoring that. It's a heavy 10, obviously, of what I've just described to you. They're just going to make a call, you would feel, on this over the next 24, 36 hours on what they can do. The general view I'm getting is that they don't want to go back a week and run it on Easter weekend. But who knows? Do they look at Newcastle again to run the second day of the championships? Those decisions will be made by Racing New South Wales. So this morning we're just going to act like it's on, and then we'll just work through that over the next period. Dean Evans is joining us from winningedgeinvestments.com. Morning to you, Dean. And Dean is coming online. I reckon you might have to unmute yourself, Dean. Morning to you, Dean. No, we've got you. Morning, Dean. Me? I've got you, Dean. Good morning. Good morning.
Can you hear me now, Andrew?
I've got you loud and clear, Dean. Welcome to the program, mate. And we're in the weather gods again.
Yeah, today insane. 60 to 110 millimetres forecast. And then for today, another 20 to 30 tomorrow, and 8 to 15 on Saturday. So very wet, and as you say, that dam situation a bit of a concern. But yeah, I guess the meeting is at some risk at the moment.
You would think so, but as we sit here, we've just got to act like it's on. And Ray Hickson's joining us from Racing New South Wales. Welcome, Ray. Okay, Ray's not there. We'll just try and get him into the system. So, Dean, we'll come to you, and let's start looking at this Queen Elizabeth. It's the big feature race on the weekend. I guess the big question here is that we turn up on a heavy 10. Is that Very Elegant? Can it rebound on the likes of Montefilia and the others, like Jewis now setting itself on the scene?
Yeah, well, what a absolutely incredible field we have here, just for any racing fan.
I'm hearing
such an exciting field. Very Elegant, the Melbourne Cup winner, in here with Zaki, who's won a Doomben Cup and Underwood and McKinnon and an All-Star Mile now. Dewey, who's been so impressive winning the Australian Cup and the Tancred. Montefilia, who beat Very Elegant last start, and Animo, who has beaten the nose in the Cox Plate and then has just come out and won a Roseville Guineas by 7 lengths. It's a red hot field. I think Zaki will wanting to be dominating up front. You've got sort of Delasan and Mount Popper will be sort of right there on his hammer, and think it over handy too. I'm thunderstruck. Animo and Montefilia will probably be in sort of the next group, and then you got the quality of Very Elegant and Dewey out the back stalking them. So it's it's certainly a very, very exciting race. I do think Waller has proven to be a master at peaking them on the right day, and although Very Elegant couldn't sort of run down Montefilia last start at Rosehill on that sticky track, I think the Randwick heavies are a different beast again, and I do think it suits Very Elegant better. 2,000 metres on this quagmire will be more like 22 or 24 anyway, and I do think Very Elegant's a very deserved favourite.
Yeah, right now $3.20 at Bet365. Zaki at $4.80, Dewey at $5, and Animo is at $5. Montefilia, who won the Randvet, at $9. Ray Hickson's joining us from Racing New South Wales. Ray, what a race it's going to be. Hopefully, it'll be on heavy ground for sure if it's run on Saturday. But the quality is just simply stunning.
Yeah, g'day, Andrew. Technical difficulties again there. Yeah, sorry. Look, it's an amazing field. Look, it really does come down to what happens with that water, I guess, at that point of concern at Randwick at the moment, and we're not really going to know that for another 24 hours or so. But as you were saying, that it's going to be a real test, and horses like maybe the fact that Jewess has had the run at 2,400 metres is going to come into play.
Well, it's interesting that the market has switched a couple of these around. Due is certainly one that has tightened up a little bit into that $5 quote. As it stands right now, Ray, what's your overview on it? Given that let's just say we're racing Saturday and we're on heavy ground, what are you thinking?
Well, just looking down the field, I think that I've got to have a question mark over Zaki on the very heavy 10. Only for the fact that we haven't seen him on it. He has really not been exposed to it at all. And even overseas, he's had a couple of soft track runs, but we don't really know how that compares to a heavy 10. But at the same time, what's he done wrong? So it's going to be an interesting battle for punters there, to trying to work out what to do with Zaki. Do we back the fact that he's one of the best horses in the country and that he will handle it, or do we take him on? So that's an interesting one. It seems like he's being taken on just a little bit, with Very Elegant being the one who's firming. I'm thunderstruck on the backup from the Doncaster. That's got to help him. I don't think Mount Popper can win. Dalasan, probably not. Very Elegant is, as you say, the interesting one. The Rosehill Heavy is very different to the Randwick Heavy, as Dean said, and she's proved that she absolutely loves the Randwick Heavy. Not that she can't get through it at Rosehill, but it just seems these middle distance horses seem to be able to get a grip on the Randwick track when it's heavy, as opposed to the Rosehill one, which tends to be a little bit more on the shifty side. So you're not going to find me knocking Very Elegant. As I said, Jewess, the fact that she's had that hard run at 2,400 metres didn't look like it was very hard. She picked them up quite easily. And the fact that was only 12 days prior to the scheduled running of this race, or 13 days, it's going to stand her in great stead. And I really don't know what to do with Animo, guys. Six lengths win in the Rosehill Guineas looks wonderful to the eye. We know he handles a Randwick Heavy. It's just a matter of whether that 3-year-old form is going to measure up this autumn. I mean, he ran second in the Cox Plate as a spring 3-year-old, so that's got to be worthy of plenty of respect for him. But yeah, it's just a fascinating race. There's so many angles, and I didn't really even mention Montefilia there, who easily beat Very Elegant last start.
Well, I was just going to bring that up with Montefilia, who wins the Randvet, Dean Evans, and because I think it's trained by David Payne, David doesn't go out of his way. We had him on earlier in the week, but he doesn't do a lot of interviews, so she just sort of quietly just goes about it. Should we be ruling her out at the moment?
No, absolutely not. I've got fairly similar thoughts to Ray here. I've got Very Elegant on top, and Zaki is the danger, and he's right that heavy, very heavy track is probably the unknown with Zaki. But I've got Montefilia a pretty clear third pick. I think you take her win against Very Elegant last start on face value. She's very suited to the conditions. I do think 2,000 metres is her peak distance. She did win the Metrop over 2,400, but I think that sort of sees her out at the top level. The wet track does bring her into contention, and she's a really genuine chance. I think Very Elegant and Zaki will be absolutely at their top and their peak for this. But at the end of the day, Montefilia is a very clear danger, and with Hugh Bowman aboard, she's a really strong, genuine chance.
Okay, so give us your opinions then on. I'm going to go with Jewess because I think that's what Edward says, but I'm happy to go with someone that can absolutely tell me. But have you got her in the mix, or do you think that she has to go to an absolute next level to have any hope here, Dean?
Yeah, it's a funny thing to say when she's won an Australian Cup and a Tancred, but she's going up in class here. The Tancred win was very impressive, but Spanish Mission wasn't really in the race. It tailed off last. Think It Over doesn't handle the wet. So she's, at the end of the day, she's gone ahead and beaten, Stockman and the Chosen One that are handicappers. And the Australian Cup field wasn't overly strong either. So I do think she has to take another level here. I think she can certainly measure up, and she's absolutely flying. But for me, at $5, I've got her rated fourth. It's not as though I don't think that she can win, but I do think I'm going to be betting around her. With the step up in class, and same with Animo. I'm just betting around him. He got 49.5 in a Cox Plate, but he has to come here now with 55.5. His Rosehill Guineas win on times, on raw times rated, almost 10 points lower than the Montefilia Very Elegant race, and 4.5 points, weight adjusted. So it was very slow time. They absolutely walked early, and so I'm just having to risk, Animo as well here, and focus my attention mainly on Very Elegant and Zaki is the clear top two, and I think Montefilia is the one who can be sort of the knockout.
Okay, so numbers 6, 2, and 8. Have you locked away your top tip there, Ray?
Not quite, but I do have Duas in the mix, simply because yes, she does have to go up in class. Funny to say after 2 Group 1 wins in a row, but you take a line on the Chipping Norton where, while it was over a mile, she probably should have won that race against Very Elegant on the heavy 10 at Randwick. So that's a pretty good pointer heading into this race. She's coming into it absolutely airborne. And like I said, with that 2,400 metre run less than 2 weeks ago, she's got to be absolute peak fitness, no questions. So she's got to be a big chance. Very Elegant's in the mix. Montefilia is definitely in the mix. And like I said, I'm not really worked out what I'm doing with Zaki and Animo yet. I think obviously those are the 5 main chances. Wouldn't shock me if I'm Thunderstruck got himself into the placings, because you've got to remember in last year's race, Dalasan ran 3rd and Think It Over ran 4th behind a Dave and Very Elegant. And these horses are of that level. I'm Thunderstruck. So, yeah, look, I'm stronger. I'm considering Duas stronger, I guess, than Dean is, but I haven't really locked in my top one yet. But that'll be coming very soon. Don't worry.
It'll be on the site, no doubt. Let's look at the Queen of the Turf. We'll pick up on a couple of these other races, which will be race 9. So it'll be heavy going if it's Saturday. Colette, $4 right now. Ice Bath at $5.50. They tell me it's Yonsei at $7.50. Yonsei. Fangirl at $12. Lighthouse at $13 with promise of success. Dean Evans from Winning Edge Investments. You can treat betting like a business. Gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-858-858. What's your thoughts on the Queen of the Turf, Dean?
There's a lot of speed here. Never Been Kissed, Lelude, Anna Visto, Vangelic, Shout the Bar. Even Bar Braider likes to be pretty handy. So I think there's going to be plenty of tempo up front. Then you got sort of horses like Mirror Vision, Lighthouse, Nimmerly that will settle in the midfield, and then there's a fair field of back markers as well with the rest of them. It's a pretty good field, this one. There's sort of a number of chances. Colette is certainly going to enjoy the wet track here. I think the heavier the better for her. And so that the track conditions really play into her hands. Horses coming off a Doncaster run have a very good record in this race. So the likes of Lighthouse and Ice Bath coming off, Ice Bath was a very good 3rd, and Lighthouse had a pretty tough run in the Doncaster. They have to be chances. We've had the last 9 years, three winners have come out of the Doncaster, 2 have come out of the Emancipation that promise of success, 1. And the other big pointer has been horses coming out of the Vinery, the 3-year-old fillies that have a really good record, with a couple of horses winning, and also Funstar running 2nd, and that brings, I think, the likes of Fangirl and Never Been Kissed into it. I do really like Fangirl. I think she was very good, winning the Vinery. I think stepping back to a mile on a wet track suits her, and I do have her on top here. And I think Colette, Lighthouse, Yonsei, who's done nothing wrong in its career at the moment, and Never Been Kissed, who I think back to a mile, the Flight Stakes winner. and trained by Gay, who's won this 3 times in the last 8 years. I think they're all, strong chances in what's a pretty handy field.
Never Been Kissed right now at $34 and $9 the place, and I think it's significant that they haven't gone on further, that they've stayed at the mile. What's your thoughts here, Ray?
Yeah, well, I think first thing we can know is the Hungry Heart won't be there. If there's any, if recent history is any guide. Look, there's a few horses. This race is going to be tricky for me to work out because there's a few horses here I've been on the back of, in the lead up to this race, the likes of Promise of Success, obviously Fangirl, and Ice Bath is a bit of an old favourite as well. And Yonsei is the one I just don't know how. I can't work out. You can't knock a horse that's unbeaten. She's 6 from 6, and she really hasn't never looked like being beaten last start at that 2,000 metres, and that's got to stand her in good stead for a tough 1,600 at Randwick. Whether she's going to handle the wet track, we don't know. Speaking to John Allen earlier in the week, he seems to think she'll be okay. Everything that he's seen of her on sort of some kind of affected ground has been promising. So look, I just don't know. And Barrier 1 probably isn't the greatest for her. I'll be looking around. Obviously, Colette looms large over this race. She's got that Group 1 Wait for Age form leading into it. She had the miss in the Chipping Norton, but I think there were excuses that day, and she did pull up with an issue, obviously bouncing back in the rider. Will Ice Bath ever win a stakes race is the question. She's won $4 million in prize money and has yet to win at stakes level, which is remarkable. You'd have to think her day will come. I just don't think. I know everyone's got Ice Bath pegged as this superior wet tracker, but I really don't think that sort of bottomless heavy track is what she likes. I think the track in the Doncaster wasn't too bad because it was it was an improving day. It was a sort of a solid wet track, not a really deep heavy track, and we saw that in the Guy Walter when she wasn't really able to run on as well as we expected her to. That said, she's now had 4 runs back from a spell and is on the backup, so certainly got to have her in the mix. Look, this race can be a bit of a lottery at times. As Dean said, there's a bit of speed here, so that hopefully allows those horses that like to get back and settle the chance to run on. Look, early thoughts, probably with the obvious Colette and Ice Bath, but Fangirl is one I want to have another closer look at.
The Sydney Cup, as we work backwards here. Stockman's the favourite in race 7 at $4.80 at the moment. Crystal Pegasus $6.50. Chalkstream at $9. Knight's Order at $10 with Luncey's and $11. No Compromise. We saw Luncey's improve last week, Dean, with the blinkers going on. But Chalkstream, can the Queen's colours win the Sydney Cup?
Yeah, an interesting field here again. Luncey's was good last start. Chalkstream was a pretty strongly backed favourite for the Chairmans, and then he scratched and gone into this third up without that hard fit run. Whether that's going to be a challenge here is the question. The wetter it gets, the more I like them to have had that recent run, and certainly like. I think that'll help the likes of Knight's Order, who was a good second in the Chairman's last start. It's a pretty good field. I think the Chosen One has been set for this. Was a good third in the Tancred last start. He's got Caulfield Cup form and was beaten a nose in the Sydney Cup a couple of years ago. I think he's a good chance. I think Crystal Pegasus is just absolutely flying, and Jamie Carr has chosen to ride him over Decky and Sweet Jr., which I think is a strong pointer. The other one, I think, at big odds that is probably the forgotten horse is Angel of Truth, who's been coming out of the Group 1 Wait for Age race. I really think with Angel of Truth, the wetter the better for him. And he's going a lot better than he was the last time he ran in a Sydney Cup. I think he can run the 2 miles. And I think coming from, 59 kgs in these Group 1 Wait for Ages, in the Randwick where he ran third, the Chipping Norton where he ran third, and the Tancred where he ran fifth, and now coming back into this with 51 kgs on a really bog heavy track. and probably going to be straight out the front there with Knight's Order. I see the two of them getting a pretty comfortable lead in front of the rest of the field here. And they might actually find it quite hard in the heavy bog to run down those two.
Right now, Angel of Truth around $29 and $8 the place there with Bet365. The Australian Oaks, Ray Hickson, let's focus in on race 6. Hinge, the favourite at the moment at $4.20. Gypsy Goddess, $4.60. Honey Creeper at $4.60. Pink Ivory, James McDonald. If you didn't hear him Tuesday, go and podcast the interview. He couldn't have been much stronger about her. She's $6, and they're the top 4. Biscayne Bay's the next one at $15. I guess you've got to... I mean, Honey Creeper's just been so dominant, Ray.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I think, we're talking about horses that, having had recent runs on heavy tracks as lead-ups to these races, you've really got to look at the horses that ran in the Adrian Knox as big chances in the Australian Oaks, particularly because the Vinery, the traditional Group 1 lead-up, was run at 18.50 at Newcastle on a soft 6, as opposed to the 2,000 metres at Randwick on a heavy 9. Horses like Hinged and Gypsy Goddess may have that, class edge, but you're looking at Honey Creeper last week. That was just unbelievable how dominant she was. She carried the penalty in that race for as well with the 57.5. So she meets all those horses a little bit better at the weights. And she's on the backup because she was, 5 to 6 weeks between runs from the Tasmanian Oaks prior to that. So she's got to be a massive, massive chance. I did hear James McDonald speaking about Pink Ivory. I also recall the comments from Rory Hutchings out of that race in the Vinery, basically saying that if it was 2,000 metres or further, she'd have just about won the race. So that's encouraging for going up to the 2,400 metres. Look, Hinged and Gypsy, I've got to be negative on Gypsy Goddess on a really heavy track. If for some reason we don't race on Saturday and it's a day or two later or whatever and the track's a little bit better, maybe she gets reconsidered. But I just, while she was brilliant in that race, I just can't see her going 18.50 to 24 third up on a heavy 10 and having to give them a head start. So, look, I really think this Oaks is well and truly up for grabs, Andrew and Dean, but at this stage probably have to be with Honey Creeper.
Okay, what's your view on these different sort of races, Dean, from Newcastle and that distance coming into Saturday?
Yeah, I think the really interesting factor for me is in the last 4 Oaks where it's been on really heavy tracks. The winners have been Colette, Gust of Wind, and Royal Descent, all of which came out of the Adrian Knox the week before, and the only other one was Bonneval, who came from a New Zealand Oaks. Tough New Zealand Oaks win, and then the second horse came out of the Adrian Knox. So for me, when it's on, these really wet tracks, this tough 2,400 metres, these fillies seem to have to be rock hard fit. For me, that brings Honey Creeper, right into it. As Ray said, she doesn't have the class of the others, but I just find the profiling on a tough 2,400 metres on a bog for these 3-year-old fillies, you've just got to be rock hard fit, and that's why I think Honey Creeper is going to be hard to beat. The other one I'm really keen on is Pink Ivory. Part of that's probably because we have a ticket on her in the futures at $51, but she's just that always helps. But she's just so well bred. She's by Redwood. He's had some really good stayers, Platinum and Beta and Rising Red and Tokarangi in New Zealand, and had a Lotteria, who was a multiple Group 1 winning mare for Gay, ran second in a Cox Plate. The times that she was running, early on in her wins, at Gosford and Newcastle, she was just sort of running, plus 11s, plus 14s, just really impressive times. And then, she was very good in the Vinery, and she gets a very big positive rider change with James McDonald on board. I think just everything points to her, with John Sargent, who's a master with these 3-year-old fillies in the Oaks. For me, I've got it really a 2-horse race in terms of 2. I'm just really interested in being, hard on. That's Honey Creeper and Pink Ivory.
There's some of the features. We're in the lap of the weather gods. Let's hope in some way it softens up this amount of rain over the next 48 hours, and that this meeting can go ahead, because there's just quality from the very first race through until the last race. And We've just got to be hopeful. That's the main thing. Ray, I know you'll be getting stuck into your wet track form a lot more, and people will be able to read those stories on your website at racingnsw.com.au. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Absolutely, Andrew. No problem at all. Look, these races will get run, Andrew. It's just a matter of whether they're Saturday or a day or two later, perhaps. But look, as you say, we just have to wait and see.
Good on you, Ray. Ray Hickson joining us there. And Dean, anything else on the card that you've looked at that you just want to throw out at this stage?
Yeah, look, it's a fantastic card, and hopefully we get to run on Saturday. In the last, I'll be interested just to see how Bella Nipotina parades. I think she sort of pulled up lame first up in the Oakley Plate, and she was sort of not on her game again in the Galaxy, where she was being 3 lengths and sort of got held up a fair way. She just hasn't seemed herself in her first 2 runs. She's been very sort of flighty, not happy in the yard, acting up and in the gates and doing a few things. I do rate her very highly, and I'm just interested to see if she parades really well. That'll be important. I think it's important for a lot of these races. I do remember the last couple of years when I've looked at the yard, particularly a race like the Queen of the Turf, where these fillies and mares have had quite a few runs, and sort of near the end of the campaign, the last couple of years I've been able to rule out quite a few just from the yard, where they just start to act up, and you can see they're at the end of their preparation. So I do think that's an important thing when you get to these late races. The other big race is the Arrowfield, and I think the Snowdens have set Marzu, and I think he's just had the perfect prep, to be rock hard fit and set and ready for this, and I think it'll be hard to beat. The one I do like at odds is Ranch Hand. I do think Ranch Hand is a wet tracker and also a fresh horse sprinter. They sort of tried him over the 1400 a mile, but he's sort of $15-16, and I think he could be the smoky to knock over Marzu in the Arrowfield.
All the details are there for you. WinningEdgeInvestments.com. Tips and ratings from professional punters like Dean. You can hear it. All the work is being done throughout the Autumn Carnival. Make sure you gamble responsibly. 1-800-858-858. Dean, we'll cross the fingers and we'll see what happens. Thanks for coming on this morning.
Thanks very much, Andrew. And hopefully we're racing on Saturday somehow.
Yeah, cross the fingers. Dean Evans there from Winning Edge Investments. Treat betting like a business.